had no idea my boss could hear my thoughts while he was yelling at me. I kept a straight face, but inside I was going crazy. Darn it. Keep talking trash and I'll shut you up with a kiss. Then I'll totally dominate you. The next second, my boss covered his mouth and stared at me in shock. You? What did you just say? I looked up at him with innocent, confused eyes. I didn't say anything just now. What the heck? I didn't speak out loud. Is my boss losing his mind because of me? Michael sat in his leather chair like he just witnessed something impossible, staring straight at me. I gotta say, I really do have great taste. This man is exactly my type. Michael swallowed hard, his face starting to turn red. Go print out the sales department's inventory reports for me. I quickly bowed like a servant. Yes, sir. I have to admit, when he speaks so gently, it really hits all my buttons. I spun around fast, desperate to escape this soul-crushing office. Yes, finally getting out of this depressing room. Stay any longer and I'll start crawling on the floor like a zombie. Ryan, my boss called out from behind me. He rested his chin on his hands, scanning me up and down. You really didn't say anything just now. I smiled politely, keeping my voice calm. No, I didn't. I looked firmly at this gorgeous man in front of me, but inside I was panicking like crazy. I didn't speak out loud. Does he have mind-reading powers or something? Let me test this. With huge curiosity, I started thinking again. Boss, I want to sleep on your muscular chest. I want to squeeze those pecs that are bigger than mine. Michael and I just stared at each other for a while. No reaction. Am I overthinking this? Whatever. If he could hear my thoughts, he would have fired me already. Considering how much I want to jump his bones, he looks so darn good. I really want to get my hands on him and have my way with him. That little suit looks so hot on him. Seeing Michael still staring at me without saying anything, I slowly spoke up. Boss, if there's nothing else, I'll go get those documents now. My boss nodded, signaling I could leave. As soon as I got out, I took a huge breath. That was terrifying. For a moment, I thought he could actually hear my thoughts. If you want to know how my connection with Michael started, it goes back to when I first interviewed at his company. He was wearing a sharp black suit, sitting behind the interviewers. The moment I saw him, I was so mesmerized I couldn't look away. The first time I saw Michael, I forgot my own name. He was just too perfect for my taste. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, full chest. Right then and there, I swore I had to stay at this company. Luckily, with my excellent grades and skills, I got in. But afterward, I never saw Michael again. I thought he might be some small-time manager at a branch office. Turns out he was the CEO of the entire company. To get closer to him, I worked hard and improved myself like crazy. All just to be a little closer to him. When I finally became his secretary, I couldn't have been happier. Except he seemed really unsatisfied with his new secretary. Every day he was either criticizing me or on his way to criticize me. So every day I was cursing him out in my head. On one hand, I had a crush on him. On the other hand, I was mentally roasting him. It felt amazing. But ever since that accident at the construction site a few days ago when I had to pull Michael to safety and we both jumped down from a 10th scaffold, something changed. We both made it out without serious injuries, but something between us shifted. I remember waking up in the hospital room. My boss sat there with his legs crossed, waiting for me to open my eyes. From that moment on, he became really weird. He would inexplicably stare at me all the time, like he was studying me. Those eyes felt like they wanted to see right through me, making my skin crawl. That only made me curse him out even more in my head. Since that day, my boss kept saying random things like, "You're so loud, Secretary Ryan," or "You seem really unsatisfied with me, Secretary Ryan," or "You're so good at putting on a front. I should learn from you." I was speechless. What the heck is he babbling about? I can't understand him. Makes me want to kiss him. Keep talking and I really will go over there and shut you up with my mouth. He couldn't be passive-aggressively attacking me, right? I'm just a harmless fresh graduate. What's there to attack? Eventually, I just got used to his weirdness. It was a summer noon, hot as blazes. I was lying on my desk trying to cool myself down. So hot. I want some ice cream. So hot. Someone save me. Hey, Tom, turn up the AC. It's getting warm in here. Also, does anyone want drinks? My treat. Michael's voice suddenly appeared, scaring me so much I sat up straight. When did he sit down there? I looked up and saw my boss sitting right across from me. From my position, I could see him crystal clear, and the same went for him. Seeing me slacking off, I quickly pulled out reports from my folder, pretending to be busy. I wasn't slacking, I'm busy working, don't come near me, don't come near me. But, of course, what I feared most happened. Michael walked toward me in his polished leather shoes. Since I was looking down, I only saw a pair of shiny dress shoes enter my field of vision. Ryan, what do you want to drink? I thought about it. I want a grape slush with tapioca pearls. After my boss left, I stared at his back and couldn't help but daydream. I chose this company because I had my eye on him. Thought he was some small manager. Turns out he's the CEO. Getting him will be tough. No problem. I'll face this challenge head on. I'll win this beautiful man's heart. Cough, cough. Michael suddenly choked on his water. I quickly ran over with a glass of warm water. Boss, are you okay? Have some water to help. Oh, wow, his body is so solid. Maybe I can sneak a touch and he won't notice. Hee, here I go. Just as my hand was about to touch him, my boss dodged away lightning fast. He stepped back like I tried to burn him. His jaw worked as if he were holding words between his teeth. And then he looked past me, past the office, past whatever we'd been pretending not to notice for days. Don't, he said quietly. Don't what? I asked, offended, because I hadn't actually touched him. Don't try to sneak a touch, he said, voice strained. I wasn't, I started, then remembered that I had, in fact, been planning a covert graze and had narrated the whole thing in my skull like a bad nature documentary. His eyes flicked to mine. We stood there in uncomfortable silence, the hum of air conditioning and the faraway clack of keyboards filling in our mutual confusion. Come with me, he said at last. Conference room 3. He didn't wait to see if I followed. He just walked, and I did what any sane person does when their paycheck walks away. I followed. Conference room 3 was a glass box beside the records room, overlooked by a grim scene that had seen things. Michael shut the door and turned the blinds so we were stripes of bright and shadow. He stayed standing. I stayed pretending that my heart wasn't doing burpees. I'm going to say something that will make you think I'm joking, he said, slow, precise. I am not joking. Okay, my voice squeaked. I can hear you. His gaze didn't waver, not out loud. Not always, but since the accident, your inner commentary. He pinched the bridge of his nose. It's like standing under a billboard with subtitles. My mouth fell open. I don't know why, he went on. I've tried to ignore it. I thought it was trauma or stress, but it started the night we fell. His eyes tracked mine. You were dreaming about me yelling, and then in your head, you said if I yelled again, you'd cut my... Red rose up his neck. You know what you said? I wanted the roof to fall on me. Say something, he said. What do you want me to say? I spread my hands. Sorry for thinking. Sorry that my brain is a talk show. I say, exhaling, he said, say that you'll help me figure this out. We stared at each other, both of us pretending this was an HR-compliant problem-solving meeting and not the beginning of the strangest intimacy of my life. Fine, I said. Let's test it. We did science, or well, the office supplies version of science. I wrote numbers on sticky notes, put them in a row, then thought hard about number 3. He guessed 5. I pictured a lavender cat. He said, why does the cat have a bow tie? Which, okay, close. I recited the alphabet in my head at different speeds. He winced when I went fast. I pictured myself stepping on his foot. He hopped back before I moved. It wasn't perfect mind reading. He didn't parrot my thoughts, but he caught the loud ones, the charged ones, the thoughts that felt like a spark, jumping a gap. Emotional volume, he said, rubbing his temple. If you feel it, I hear it. And you only hear me? I asked. Low. So far? He glanced toward the blinds as if to check for stray monologues. I don't want to hear anyone else. Something in my chest unclenched. Something else clenched twice as hard. We need rules, I said, unexpectedly practical. Boundaries. Because I think a lot, I've noticed. Rule 1, I said, lifting a finger. No using my thoughts to punish me. His mouth twitched. I'm not in the business of punishing you. Debatable, I muttered. Rule 2? He asked. No using my thoughts in performance reviews, I said. No quoting me. No, you called me a pompous thundercloud in Q2, so no bonus. Noted. Rule 3. I hesitated. The truth was humiliating, but we were long past dignity. If I accidentally think something personal about you, you pretend you didn't hear. He inhaled, held it, let it go. If you accidentally think something personal, he said carefully, and if it pertains to workplace safety, I will address it. I laughed, despite myself. Because my personal thoughts are a hazard. They're loud, he said a little helplessly. It's like being handed the remote to a fireworks show. We added more rules. He would warn me if I was broadcasting too hard during meetings. I would practice turning the volume down, breathing, counting backward, thinking about staplers. We would not discuss anything we didn't have to discuss. We would not under any circumstances use this thing to cheat at contracts, auctions, or poker. And then we tried to have a normal afternoon. The world did not cooperate. News of us occupying conference room 3 spread like perfume. Irene from finance paused at the glass with a smile that said, "She's dead." Tom from IT gave me 2 thumbs up because men are an unsolved mystery. I found a grape slush with tapioca pearls in my desk when we got back, and a post-it in Michael's precise handwriting. You should hydrate. I told myself that was nice. I told myself not to overthink. I told myself to stop narrating that I was not overthinking. He called me Secretary Ryan in that flattened tone that used to make my stomach drop and today made my stomach do a minor roller coaster. I typed. He paced. The office lived. That should have been it. Rules. Awkward truce. A new hobby called Don't Think About Touching Your Boss's Tie. But the universe had not finished with us. 2 days later, we had the Lang & Company presentation. Lang was our white whale, a prickly logistics conglomerate with money to light a city. Michael had been courting them for a year. Irene had a folder labeled, "If this fails, we all die." I wore a shirt 1 shade too tight because I made bad choices under pressure. The boardroom was cold enough to store seafood. Lang's team sat with their hands steepled, their suits aggressive charcoal. Michael started his slides. Crisp, elegant, the kind of numbers that make MBA students weep. I sat at the back taking notes, trying to keep my brain on mute. It didn't work. You don't have to do it all alone, I thought when he faltered on a minor supply chain question. They're daring you to be defensive. Pause. Offer options. The third alternative. You taught me that. His head tilted almost imperceptibly. He took a breath, pivoted, offered the third alternative. Lang's eyebrow, the left one with the scar, relaxed a millimeter. I got cocky. You always do this thing with your right hand when you're about to say something important. Put it on the table. Open your palm. That's your tell. It'll make them believe you're giving the truth away. His right hand slid to the table, palm open. Irene shot me a look like I'd taken over his body with witchcraft. I kept going, a whisper in my own skull. Don't fight on price. Promise timeline certainty. They don't care about shaving another 0.5% if they can sleep at night and brag about 0 delays. He promised timeline certainty with a penalty clause. Lang leaned forward. Some of his team didn't blink for a full minute. When we broke for coffee, Michael stood beside the water cooler and didn't look at me. That was you, he said under his breath. I didn't say anything, I replied defensively. You thought very loudly, he swallowed. Thank you. It's mutual aid, I said too bright. You made my job. I rescue your whale. We're even. He finally looked at me. There was gratitude in his face and something like helplessness. This is dangerous, Ryan. I know, I said. I know. We got Lang. The email came in at 11 p.m. We're in pending final review. Irene sent a champagne emoji and then I'm convinced actually opened a bottle at home and said a small prayer to the god of quarterly reports. The next morning, HR sent an email. Mandatory interview, rumor of inappropriate relationship, potential conflict of interest, anonymous complaint. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. I stared at my reflection in the monitor. Wide eyes, a tie I'd picked because it matched his suit yesterday, the face of a man who had spent the night replaying a voice that wasn't his. Don't panic, Michael said from the doorway, and I realized I'd been broadcasting pure static. Too late, I muttered. We didn't even do anything. I know. He stepped inside, closed the door softly. We'll handle it. Someone thinks I slept my way into a contract with my thoughts, I said. Half laugh, half despair. He winced. This is on me. I shouldn't have kept you so close after the accident. The optics. The optics, I echoed. Hollow. He folded his arms. He did that when he wanted to keep his hands off me. I realized, and hated that the realization was even a thing. I'm going to recommend a transfer, he said. I blinked. What? To strategy, he said quickly. Temporary. You'll get out from under me. Under my supervision. He amended when my eyebrows shot up. You'll report to Lena. She's good. It will stop the rumors. It will remove me, I thought, and the words came out like glass. You're sending me away. His eyes shut for a heartbeat. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From you. His jaw tightened. From me hearing you. From me wanting to hear you. From me making a decision because of something you didn't mean me to know. From everyone else deciding you only got here because of... He bit off the rest. I wanted to tell him I was not breakable. I wanted to tell him I'd chosen this company because of a man in a suit and had against my better judgment found a place I was good at. I wanted to tell him he wasn't the only one in this room who needed protecting. What came out was, do what you have to do, boss. He flinched at the word. I didn't take it back. The transfer happened in a blur of polite emails. Lena from Strategy was a small, fierce woman with hairpins like weapons and a laugh that made men twice her size reconsider their life choices. She welcomed me with a stack of documents and an espresso the size of my hope. Here's a puzzle, she said, tapping a map of supplier routes. Solve it faster than Irene would. The work was clean. It filled the hours. It did not silence the part of me that analyzed footsteps in the hall and measured distance by how often I felt a tug at the edge of my mind when Michael walked past. He didn't come find me. He sent exactly 2 emails, one about a schedule, one saying, "Good job on the Lang handover." Both could have been written by a robot with a law degree. He was staying away on purpose. The first week, I respected him for it. The second week, I called him a coward in my head and immediately apologized to the ceiling. We might have settled into the new normal if the city hadn't decided gravity was optional. On a Wednesday afternoon, the South construction site, our site, the one with the scaffolding we jumped from, called in a structural issue. A contractor cut into a load-bearing beam. It wasn't catastrophic yet. It could be fast. Lena looked at me over her glasses. You were with Michael when the first incident happened, she said. Go. He'll listen. Make him listen. I went. The site stank of dust and metal. Workers in orange vests moved like a hive that knew it had a leak. Michael stood with the safety team, head bare, sleeves rolled, a man-shaped alarm bell. He saw me and didn't pretend not to. Ryan, he said, and my name in his mouth did something to my spine I could not put on a form. What's the status? I asked, deliberately practical. We need to clear the east platform, the safety officer said, pointing. It's stable now. It won't be in an hour. We have 27 workers up there, Michael said. Bringing them down now means leaving equipment unsecured. Equipment can fall, the officer said. People can't. Michael's mouth flattened. He hated false choices. He hated sloppy failure. I knew this. I had known this before I knew the shape of his earlobes. He looked at the lattice of metal and people. His pulse beat in his throat. I felt it like a drum even from 6 feet away. The bristle of his mind on the verge of an ugly decision. Don't do the hero thing, I thought, as loud as I ever had. Don't climb. Delegate. You can't be the one up there. You're the one down here who gets people out. His head jerked. Our eyes locked. He heard me. He exhaled. Clear them, he said to the officer. Tie off what you can on the way down. Drop anything else to the west where the net is strongest. The team moved. A machine oiled by orders. The first wave came down. A young woman with a smear of white dust across her cheek, an older man limping from a bruise, a kid barely old enough to shave who smiled at me like I had personally held the building together. A cable snapped high above with a sound like an insult. The east platform shivered and gave a formal bow. A man lost his footing, grabbed the rail, hung there, feet kicking empty air. Line! Someone shouted. A coil sailed up, fell short. The man grunted, swung. My heart leapt into my throat and refused to come back down. So you can reach him with the cherry picker. I thought at maximum volume. Now, now. Michael already had the keys. He pointed, shouted. Someone scrambled. The machine winded forward, arm rising, basket opening like a mouth to swallow the man whole. He fell into it in a tangle of limbs and relief. We watched from below while the platform groaned itself into a diagonal it had never been meant to experience. When everyone was down and the alarms were beeping in the way that tells you bad has been avoided, but not by much, the sight fell into that hush it gets after the thing that could have happened did not. He found me by the dumpsters. "You were yelling in my head," he said, chest heaving. "You were listening," I said, chest heaving in sympathy. We stood there, ridiculous, covered in dust and saved from calamity by ordinary competence. For the first time in weeks, we were alone. "This isn't sustainable," he said. "I can't build a life around catching your thoughts like sparks." "You already built a company around catching sparks," I said, gentler than I meant to be. "Maybe this is just one more strange tool." He shook his head. "It blurs lines I can't afford to blur. You know, I transferred you because you care," I said, and the words were a dare. He flinched, closed his eyes, opened them. Yes. It landed between us with the weight of a decision finally said out loud. "I care," he repeated, like it hurt and healed him to admit it. Which is exactly why I can't be the one to decide anything, while I can still hear you when you're scared or reckless or angry or when I'm thinking about your shoulders, I replied, bravado paper thin. He made a helpless noise. "Yes, okay," I said, surprising myself. "Then we stopped giving your brain anything to hear." "How?" "Practice," I said. "Volume control, intent, and time." My throat tightened. "Time apart, if that's what it takes." His eyes searched my face like an answer key. "You'll do that?" "I'd rather not." It came out too fast, too honest. "But I'll do what protects us, both of us, and the company and my paycheck, which is important." Something like a laugh broke out of him, small and desperate. He looked down, then up. "The hearing fades," he said suddenly. "It's already fading," I blinked. "What?" "I didn't want to tell you," he said. "It comes strongest when your heart spikes. Fear, anger, excitement." His mouth curved at that last word in a way that made the dumpsters jealous. "When you're calm, it's quieter. In meetings, when you breathe before you think, I barely catch anything. So you're saying I'm the problem and the solution?" I tried to smirk. It came out tender. He stepped closer. Not too close. Close enough that if I leaned an inch, our sleeves would whisper. "I'm saying that in a week, I might only hear you when it matters most. In a month, maybe not at all." "And then what?" I asked. "Then we decide as two people with separate skulls." I swallowed. Okay. He echoed like a promise. We kept our word. We built protocols like we were two countries negotiating a fragile peace. Lana, who knew more than she let on, scheduled me on projects far from Michael's calendar. Michael stopped dropping by strategically unless he had to. And when he did, he stood in the doorway and asked neutral questions about neutral numbers. In my apartment at night, I practiced silence like a musician practices scales. Inhale, hold, exhale, release. Sometimes I whispered my thoughts into my pillow just to get them out the right way. The way that didn't travel, weeks rolled. The hearing continued to thin like a storm moving out to sea. Every now and then, something leapt the distance. A flare of embarrassment when I tripped over a power cord. A spike of joy when Lena praised a model I built. The sharp silver jolt of winning when he laughed at something Tom said and showed his canine. But mostly, I was alone in my head as a person should be. When Lang's final review came through and the contract signed, there was a celebration on the rooftop, paper lanterns, rental heaters, a view of a city that had not fallen down. I stood with a plastic cup of something fizzing against my lip and watched Michael work the crowd. He had always been good at it. Focused, generous, the constellation everyone navigated by. Shoulder to shoulder, not touching. Lantern light made ridiculous patterns across his suit. I thought the kind of quiet thought that doesn't go anywhere, that I like him, that I want him, that I want to touch his collarbone and see if he shivers. He didn't flinch. He didn't hear. It was both a loss and a relief. "Walk with me," he said. We went to the edge where the railing hummed with the city. The heaters thrum like giant cats. Above us, 3 planes drew 3 invisible lines toward 3 destinations that were not ours. "I told Lena I'm going to make your transfer permanent," he said. "If you want it, strategy suits you." "It does," I admitted. "I don't miss scheduling your dentist appointments." "I floss," he said, mock offended. "Liar," he smiled, then let it fade. I also told her that... He hesitated. I asked HR for a clean policy outline. Policy for what? For what happens when a CEO wants to ask a member of his company to dinner? He said, voice even. Someone who does not report to him? Someone with whom he has had unusual circumstances. My breath caught on the word dinner like it had snagged on a nail. And what did HR say? "They said," he replied, "that it is allowed if both parties consent, if there is no reporting relationship, and if both parties agree to disclose the existence of a relationship to HR to prevent real or perceived conflicts." "And what do you say?" I asked, my voice not entirely mine. "I say," he answered, looking me in the eyes in a way that felt more intimate than all the accidental eavesdropping in the world, "that I would like to ask you to dinner, not as your boss, not as your mind's witness, as a man who cares. And I will only ask you with my mouth, not with a listening trick I can barely hold anymore." I tried to be smooth. I tried to say something charming and light and perfectly measured. "Yes," I said, wrecked by relief. "God, yes." "Okay," he said, and I watched the word land inside him. The carefulness didn't vanish, but it warmed. "Then I am going to ask you something else." "Okay," I breathed. "Will you say things out loud?" He asked softly. "When you want me to know, not in your head, not hoping I catch it, tell me. Because I don't want to build anything with you that depends on accidents." I swallowed and nodded. "I can do that." "Practice," he said, the corner of his mouth tilting. "Fine," I said, and my hands were sweating. I made myself look at him. "I like you. I want to kiss you. I want to know how you look in the morning when you've forgotten you're beautiful. I want to look after you when you've used up everything on everyone else. I want to be looked after in return." His inhale was audible. He stood very still, like he was letting it soak into his bones. "Now you," I said. He blinked, surprised. The man had negotiated 8-figure deals using silence as a weapon. It delighted me to demand words. He obliged. "I like you," he said. "I want to kiss you. I want to listen the normal way, the way men have for centuries, with ears and patience and time. I want to know what you're like when you're not performing competence for a room that doesn't deserve you. I want a lot, but I will take only what you want to give." "Okay," I said again, dazed and sharp at the same time. "May I?" he asked. "Yes," I said out loud, because we set rules, and I liked keeping them. He kissed me like a decision, not a theft. Warm, careful, enough pressure to say, "I'm here," without saying I own anything. My knees considered filing for early retirement. I pressed my palm flat to his chest and felt the drum there, quick and human, and not sink to my own. For the first time since the accident, I felt entirely inside my body and not projected somewhere unsafe. We parted to the sound of the city chewing its own tail. I couldn't stop smiling. He couldn't stop looking like I had given him back a thing he hadn't known he was missing. "Dinner," he said, practical again because one of us had to be. "Not tonight. We disclose tomorrow. We do this right. Friday." "Friday?" I agreed. Giddy. "If you stand me up, I will unionize the entire building." "I believe you," he said gravely. We told HR the next morning. There were forms and stern faces and a speech about President. Lena pretended the forms had always been on her desk and slid me a candy like I was 8. Irene nodded once, brisk approval, as if I had finally solved a spreadsheet to her standards. We got a lot of work done because desire, it turns out, is an excellent productivity tool if you're not allowed to indulge it for 48 hours. Every time we crossed paths in the hallway, we behaved like diplomats. Every time our eyes met, something wordless said soon. Friday came. I spent too long choosing a shirt and then wore the first one I tried on. He picked a quiet place with dark wood and a window that made the city look polite. We ordered like adults. We ate like people who had remembered to be hungry. We talked, and the talk was easy. And when it wasn't easy, it was honest. At the end of the night, he walked me home. Not because I needed it, because he wanted the minutes. On my doorstep, he brushed a curl off my forehead as if it had been placed there by a careless god. "Say it out loud," he murmured. "I'm happy," I said, startled by how simple and undramatic and enormous it was with you right now. "I'm happy." "Me too," he said, and I believed him. The city went on. The company lived. The crisis email still came at ungodly hours. He was still difficult in meetings, and I still told jokes at the wrong time, and we still worked like people who like to win. Sometimes, when we were both too tired to pretend we weren't, we listened, not with stolen tricks, but with the ragged patience of two humans who had almost broken something rare and had chosen not to. The hearing didn't vanish completely. Once in a while, when a taxi missed us by a foot, or an investor said something cruel, or he took my hand for the first time in a room full of people who knew us as professional, a single thought jumped the gap and landed in the other person's bones with a spark. We treated it like lightning. Beautiful, dangerous, and nothing you build a house around. On another summer noon, months later, we went back to the construction site because it had finished and there was a ribbon and a speech and 400 photos of men in helmets praising beams. We stood in the shadow of the place where we had fallen and learned to listen, and he leaned close enough for his shoulder to touch mine. That tiny, ordinary miracle. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. I smiled, kept my eyes on the new shine of the building, and answered the way we had promised we would. That I chose the right company, I said, and the right man. He didn't have to hear it any other way. He just squeezed my hand, and the future for once arrived at a beautiful beginning.